The price of Hyperions has increased by 200 million coins in the past couple of weeks, as well as the prices of many other day-to-day items. If you ask any random person why they think this is happening, you'll probably just get the answer, inflation. And yes, inflation is a big part of it. But why is it so bad? And what else is happening? If you do end up enjoying this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, as it would be much appreciated. So, inflation. The laws of supply and demand indicate that the more something there is, the less it's worth. And that applies to cash. So basically, inflation is what happens when there is a lot of money in the economy, which makes people start asking for more to pay for the same product or service, and thus the value of money drops. Inflation is natural and healthy when controlled, and when the amount of money printed is low. In an RPG where you can pull money into the game by killing mobs or selling items, with hundreds of thousands of people doing it, there's a problem. Developers counter this by using money sinks, which are mechanics added to the game in order to take money out of the economy. Reforging, Slayer bosses, and dungeon chests are some of the most famous examples of money sinks. Ideally, the flow of money coming in and out would be fairly close, but nowadays, more money than ever is entering, and less is leaving. So, why is this? Before answering that, it would be useful to know why inflation is a problem in the first place. There are two general categories of money-making methods: system and player-driven. A system-driven method is one where the server is relied on to produce the coins. So, for example, killing ghosts for scavenger money is a system-driven method, whereas selling summoning eyes is player-driven, because that money is coming from another player. If we disregard inflation, the difference between these methods is that anything system-driven is stable and reliable, whereas anything player-driven will fluctuate and be quite unstable. In the early game, system-driven methods are most common, such as punching carrots to sell to the NPC, or killing zombies with a Raider Axe. These methods do not improve even if prices of items increase, meaning that inflation is making it harder and harder for players to progress past the early game, which will lead to less dedicated players, which is bad for everyone, since less people buying gems means less updates, which means a faster death for the game. With that out of the way, why are system-driven money flows worsening? Nether wart farming is the first major reason, as it creates a lot of new money, but considering how boring it is and how much effort is required to make it profitable, you would think it's not that big of an issue. But the monotony is its downfall, as macro wars can easily farm a large amount of it, which is painful for the economy. A decently maxed setup makes 10 million coins an hour, or 240 million coins a day, since bots don't need to sleep. If one person has 200 accounts botting, which isn't unlikely, that is nearly 50 billion coins added every single day, or about half of Swavy's net worth, which for those who don't know is the richest player in the game. Less than 3 days of one cheater produces the riches of the wealthiest player. The second big thing to blame is gemstone mining, on multiple levels. Firstly, it produces a lot of new cash, which as previously discussed is bad, but mainly it is consistent. This means that no matter how many people do it, the rewards don't go down. Throughout the rest of the server, supply and demand creates a balance of grinders, but in this case, that does not apply. This has more consequences than just adding coins to the economy, as a permanently stable grind will draw players away from other parts of the game, which are healthy for the economy. Basically, Slayers are a high-risk, high-reward activity, and it removes billions from the game. But here, people will just mine gemstones and not even burn any cash. Players moving from Slayers and dungeons over to gemstone mining is really bad. There are other changes in the skyblock meta that we can blame economic instability on. One large money sink used to be death penalties. Do you remember losing half your purse on death? Nowadays this is happening less and less with the advent of booster cookies and stronger gear, reducing the danger of the game, and so those doing dangerous activities have booster cookies, and others just don't die as much. The Dark Auction was another massive sink, but outside of Scorpius, the supply of Dark Auction items is so high that buying new items isn't worth doing, except for the Seal of the Family or the Flower Minion craft. The Dark Auction is losing a lot of relevancy, as most of the items it sells are just outclassed or not useful anymore, and well, less spending means less deflation. The Void Gloom Seraph update is also surprisingly hurting the economy. Sure, there are more Slayers to spend money on, but the amount of people able to do them is so low that many who want to grind other Slayers have to spend a lot of time calling Maddox, just because of how hard it is to get to Void Gloom level 6. It takes me about as long to spawn and kill a tarantula boss than it does to start a new quest. This massive amount of downtime means a lot less spending from active grinders, but also less active grinders in the first place, because they don't want to waste time calling Maddox. Sure, void glooms remove some money, but they also increase the pain of other slayers. In dungeons, the supply of chest gear has increased by so much that many rare drops aren't profitable anymore. No profit means no one buying the chests, and so obviously less money being burnt. I could go on, but you get the point. More and more money sinks are becoming irrelevant, and no new effective ones are being added to the game. Away from inflation for a minute, scammers are famously unpunished, and with the amount of players wanting essence supplied or some item crafted for them, there is a lot of scamming. This is amplified with new content updates having higher and higher requirements for making but not using certain items, and so more and more people rely on trading with other players, which are great avenues to be scammed. Another issue with trading is macroers and dupers. These people create illegitimate money and then use it to purchase items. This money then gets distributed throughout the economy, and once the original cheater is caught, well, that money is purged, alongside anyone who ever held it. These two fears together create a permanent state of fear and anxiety whenever trading with any players, as the consequences for a small slip-up can be as traumatic as losing thousands of hours of playtime. People being scared of any interaction is just unhealthy for the economic and social aspects of skyblock. Back to bashing on gemstone mining. You know how people are all grinding gemstones now instead of literally anything else? That doesn't change the demand for other items. Ender dragon pets are still needed, Hyperions are still in demand, and people still want warden hearts, but less people are producing them. Not only is gemstone mining increasing the volume of cash within the hypixel skyblock economy, but it is reducing the flow of other items. Inflation plus supply and demand laws means everything is increasing in price a lot faster than it ever did before, and why that's bad was already discussed. I know this video is more about why the skyblock's economy is going bad in general, but there's a lot to blame on gemstone mining, which is why I spent so much time talking about it. That wasn't everything I had to say, but I've taken up enough of your time today. If you learned anything from this video, consider subscribing and leaving a like. Anyways, have a nice day.